पिछले 2 महीने से मुझे बहुत सारे emails आए हैं आप लोगों से, so thank you for writing in and please keep them coming. Based on these emails, we've developed a 2-part lesson on comping, which is short for accompaniment. 90% of what you do as a piano or guitar player on stage is to accompany a soloist or vocalist. And the principles of doing this successfully are to allow the soloist to tell their story by providing them a good harmonic and rhythmic foundation. The second principle of comping is to stay out of their way. आज हम rhythmic aspects of comping पे focus करेंगे. We're going to learn some essential patterns. We're going to learn how to build tension using anticipation and syncopation. And there are 2 comprehensive studies to put all of these examples together. हर example के साथ notation, tablature and backing tracks available हैं. Let's dive in and have some fun. हम में से बहुत सारे म्यूजिशियंस अपने जर्नीज इनटू इम्प्रोवाइजेशन सोलोइंग के साथ शुरू करते हैं. बट द रियलिटी इज कि जब आप बैंड स्टैंड पे या स्टेज पे खड़े होते हो तो 90% ऑफ व्हाट यू डू एज अ पियानो और अ गिटार प्लेयर फॉर एग्जांपल इज अकम्पनी अदर पीपल. आप दूसरे म्यूजिशियंस को अकम्पनी करते हो, दूसरे सोलोस को अकम्पनी करते हो. तो अगर आप अपनी पूरी जिंदगी और अपनी पूरी प्रैक्टिस रूटीन सिर्फ सोलोइंग पे फोकस करोगे तो आप अपने अकम्पनिंग स्किल्स और कॉम्पिंग स्किल्स को निगलेक्ट करोगे. एंड दिस इज अ वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर एक हॉटशॉट सैक्सोफोन प्लेयर, ट्रम्पेट प्लेयर, वोकलिस्ट, गिटार प्लेयर ने आपको हायर किया है, they're hiring you not because of your soloing skills only. They're hiring you primarily because you are expected to make them sound good. You're expected to carry and accompany them and help them tell their stories better. और इसीलिए आपको कॉल बैक आएगा. तो मैं इस पे स्ट्रेस करना चाहता हूँ कि कॉम्पिंग इज एज इम्पोर्टेंट एज सोलोइंग इन आवर स्टडीज. अगर आप अपने कॉम्पिंग स्किल्स को इम्प्रूव नहीं करोगे, you're going to land into trouble. In fact, in jazz, especially in improvised music, comping is as much a part of improvisation as soloing is. There's a difference between comping and vamping. Vamping mein, all you're doing is essentially holding one pattern throughout. But comping is different. Comping is about variety, building energy, dynamics, and a lot of other things. Comping में 2 aspects हैं. Harmonic, about note choice, voicings, and rhythmic. Today we're going to focus on rhythmic and specifically rhythmic patterns. When to play chords on which beat and the duration of those note lengths of those chords, long or short. Internet पे काफ़ी resources हैं regarding comping and they're great. I encourage you to check them all out. The ones that I have really used a lot over the years and I have specifically used in the study come from this book. It's an old book. It's called Barry Galbraith's or Galbraith's Guitar Comping. It's not only for guitar players. It's for anybody who really wants to get into comping. इसमें कोई tabs नहीं है, but the examples and the studies are incredible and they're timeless. Just so you know. The first thing we're going to do is establish a basic chord progression. The next thing is to come up with some 3 note voicings that are going to be useful and we're going to use throughout all the examples. And step 3 finally is we're going to examine the patterns, the comping patterns. The first one is a classic, it's called the Charleston. The second pattern is a variation on the Charleston. Pattern 3 is a rhythmically displaced Charleston. And pattern 4 is a variation on pattern 3. Pattern 5 is putting chords on beats 2 and 4. And pattern 6 we introduce anticipation. And in pattern 7 we're looking at a syncopated rhythm. पहले हमें एक chord progression establish करना है over which we can practice these comping patterns. We're going to take a 1-6-2-5 in the key of C. So if you remember from lesson 2, हमने एक C major scale को harmonize करके we established 7th chords. So the 1 chord is C major itself, the 6th chord is A minor 7, the 2 chord is D minor 7, and the 5 chord is G7, G dominant 7. And it sounds just like this. C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7. But मैं एक small modification यहाँ करूँगा. This 6th chord, A minor 7, I'm going to convert it into A7 or A dominant 7. And that's fine, it's a common technique used in jazz. And essentially this A7 becomes the 5 of the 2 chord coming up on bar 3, which is D minor 7. It's called a secondary dominant. आज हम secondary dominance और harmony के बारे में ज़्यादा नहीं बात कर रहे. We're going to discuss harmonic choices for comping in another lesson, but at the moment the chord progression is just going to change to this: C major 7, A7, D minor 7, G7. हमें एक additional step लेना है. At the moment we have 4 note chords, right? C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, and G7. Now, when you're playing with a band, the bass player is usually playing the root. So if you just let him do the job, you don't have to play the root. And what you get, and what sounds really nice and a little more sophisticated, are 3 note chords that convey the same amount of information. So ये जो 3 note voicings हैं, how do you get them? Well, you take a shape you already know, like this C major drop 2 voicing, and you just remove the root. And you get this rootless 3 note voicing. Similarly, you can do the same thing with A7, okay? You just remove the root and you get these 3 notes. For D minor 7, just remove the root and you get, and for G7, just remove the root and you get. Great. So to get us started, let's play these rootless voicings as whole notes through the chord progression twice, okay? पहला rhythm का नाम है the Charleston. Technically, it is a dotted quarter followed by an eighth. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, we're going to break it down in a second. Let me play the whole chord progression with the Charleston and then we'll break it down. Charleston rhythm में the first chord is played on the downbeat, on the 1, and it's held for a beat and a half. The dotted quarter essentially means that a quarter note is extended by 50%, so that's the equivalent of 3/8 notes. And the second chord is played on the and of 2, so it's like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. That's basically the rhythm. अगर आपको इसके साथ दिक्कत आ रही है, then slow it down, use a metronome, and just practice the chord rhythm with 1 note on 1 string. Let's choose the first chord and its root, which is C, and it would be something like this: 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And when you're comfortable with that, you can graduate to trying to play through the chord progression, but again using single notes, but the roots of each chord, something like this: 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Stylistically, at least in jazz, comping you want to keep your note length as short as possible. And I'm going to post some links to some great examples of comping below. Take a listen and really listen to the kind of almost stabby, short attack that most good compers use in their accompanying. While you're practicing this slowly, a good way, at least on the guitar, to practice this is You don't reduce note length by stopping it with your right hand. You actually let the pressure go with your left hand. So, for example, notice that I'm letting my index finger off the string, and that's how I'm killing the sustain. And you can do the same thing with chords. Notice how I'm actually lifting my entire hand off to kill the sustain. I am not slapping down with my right hand. That's not a good technique, and usually when you slap down hard on the strings to kill sustain, you can hear it through the amp and the PA. अब हम दूसरी एग्जाम्पल पे पहुंच गए. Here we're going to keep the Charleston, but we're also going to add a chord on the last beat of the bar. Okay, so this is what it would sound like. हमारे third example के लिए we're going to take the Charleston rhythm and just shift it forward in an eighth note. इसको हम rhythmic displacement कहते हैं. And the Charleston, which was like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, will now be shifted forward by an eighth beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. For 4 पे we're going to just vary the displaced Charleston rhythm a bit. आपको याद होगा कि the Charleston rhythm starts on the end of 1 and it ends on beat 3. अब हम end of 3 पे भी एक chord डालेंगे, and this is what that sounds like. Now we can take these one bar ideas, the Charleston and the displaced Charleston and their variations, and create longer 2 bar ideas. Finally, let's bring all of these rhythms together and jam out a little bit. Here's a study that brings all these 1 and 2 bar ideas together. Let's have some fun. अब हमने अपने बेसिक फाउंडेशन कॉम्पिंग पैटर्न्स स्टडी करे. We're ready to move to building energy, tension. But before we go, I want to do one pattern which is common, but it's not essential, but it's important to think about beats 2 and 4. So let's practice putting chords on beat 2 and 4. इस सेक्शन में हम एक्साइटमेंट और एनर्जी पे फोकस करेंगे. फर्स्ट वी आर गोइंग टू लुक एट एंटिसिपेशन. इसका मतलब है कि वी आर गोइंग टू प्ले द कॉर्ड on the last beat, on the last eighth note of the bar before it is meant to come. Okay, so for example, if C major is meant to come on the beat 1 of the first bar, we're actually going to play it on the and of 4 of the pickup bar, which is the bar in the count-in. एंटिसिपेटेड रिदम को हम चार्ल्सटन और डिस्प्लेस्ड चार्ल्सटन के साथ मिक्स कर सकते हैं and create a 2-bar really cool idea. Here's both of them. Make sure to try both of these 2-bar patterns, combining the anticipation with the Charleston and displaced Charleston with the backing track slowly. अब हम अपने final example को explore करेंगे, and that is putting a chord on the and of 2 and the and of 4. And this is what we call syncopation, playing on the off beat between the on beats, which are 1, 2, 3, 4. So this rhythm would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can see the forward energy and the tension that's created, begging to be resolved. अब हम एक 2-bar example create करेंगे by mixing example 7, which is playing chords on the and of 2 and and of 4, with example 5, which is playing chords on beats 2 and 4. Here goes. इस फाइनल स्टडी में हम अपने जितने भी 7 पैटर्न्स हैं, we're going to bring them together, both as 1-bar and 2-bar combinations. And The idea is not to just play randomly. The idea is to help your bandmates or the soloist build tension, release it, and help them tell a story. So let's give this a shot. Learn this at full speed and then practice it with a backing track at a slower tempo. I hope you've had a good time exploring these comping patterns. अगली lesson में हम harmonic choices for voicings for comping भी explore करेंगे. Please keep your emails coming. If you have any questions or comments, email me at karan@goajazzacademy.com. In fact, this lesson was based on some emails that we've been getting on comping and on ear training and many other great suggestions. So keep them coming, and please do subscribe to the channel. And wherever you are, good day, good afternoon, or good night. Bye.